Let me paint a picture for you. You are 8 months pregnant, bleeding and in agonizing pain, completely alone in your penthouse. You finally reach your husband, the man who promised to always protect you, and his response is, "You are overreacting." Then he disconnects the call. This was the nightmare Grace Holloway was living. As her life faded on the cold bathroom floor, her husband was sipping champagne with his business partners. But the universe had a different plan. The person who ultimately saved her was her husband's biggest billionaire rival. What happens when a deep betrayal leads to a powerful rebirth? When the man she loved vanishes from her life, and the man who despised her husband steps in to become the father her children truly deserved. This is a tale of heartbreak, vengeance, and redemption. And I promise, the conclusion will absolutely take your breath away. If you enjoy stories that make your heart pound and your spirit soar, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. You will not want to miss a single moment of this journey. The phone was ringing for the fourth time that evening. Grace Holloway gazed at the screen where a smiling photo of her husband looked back at her. It was from their wedding in Nantucket 4 years earlier, back when Derek used to answer her calls. With a trembling hand, she accepted the call. "Derek, please. Something is terribly wrong. I cannot feel the twins moving. The pain is getting so much worse, and I am bleeding. I need you to come home this instant." Her voice shattered on the final words. In the background, she could clearly hear the sounds of his party for investors. The distinct clink of champagne flutes, laughter, music, the unmistakable hum of powerful people making powerful deal. Grace. Derek's voice had that sharp tone, the one that always made her feel insignificant. "I am right in the middle of a presentation to our investors. This is the Singapore deal. You are aware of how critical this is. Just take an aspirin. Call your doctor. I will be home around 9. Derek, I am terrified. Something feels very, very wrong this time. You said the same thing last month during that false alarm. And the month before that, when you were worried about preeclampsia. Your doctor confirmed you were perfectly fine. You are just feeling anxious. The pregnancy hormones are making you paranoid." Grace glanced down at her white maternity dress. A dark red stain was spreading across the fabric, looking like spilled wine. It was too much blood. Far too much. "This is not the same. Please, I am begging you." A long, heavy sigh came through the phone. It was the kind of sigh that communicated she was being difficult, overly dramatic, too much to handle. "I will try to get out of here early. Just take some deep breaths. You are overreacting, as usual." The connection ended. Grace stood by herself in their penthouse in downtown Seattle as rain streamed down the massive floor-to-ceiling windows. She was 32 weeks pregnant with twins. She was bleeding, cramping, and overcome with fear. And she was utterly alone. She looked at her phone once more, locked the screen, unlock it. His smiling face appeared. Lock, unlock, lock. It was a nervous habit she had picked up in recent months, searching for any sign of connection from a man who shared her home, but felt a million miles away. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. 7:43 in the evening. Derek had given his word he would be home by 6. That changed to 7, then 8, and now 9. She had stopped trusting his promises around the 5th month of her pregnancy. Another surge of pain struck her. It was sharp and intense, like daggers twisting inside her abdomen. Grace bent over in pain, her hands gripping the edge of the marble kitchen counter. Her Harvard sweatshirt, an old one of Derek's she had claimed years ago, was drenched in sweat. The babies. She had to feel her babies move. Grace laid her hands on her belly, waiting, pleading. There was nothing. Only a profound silence where there should have been the familiar kicks, rolls, and constant activity of two little people vying for room. The voice inside her head, the one she had been trying to silence for months, finally broke through with absolute clarity. Call 911. Stop waiting for him to rescue you. He is not coming. He never does. Call 911 immediately. Grace picked up her phone with fingers that would not stop shaking. 911, what is your emergency? I am pregnant, 32 weeks, with twins. Something is wrong. The pain, I cannot handle it, and there is so much blood. Ma'am, what is your address? Grace recited it, the address of the penthouse in the exclusive downtown building, the one that always gave people a moment's pause impressed by the wealth, the success, and the seemingly perfect life she was supposed to have. At that moment, none of it made a difference. Not the marble countertops, the designer furniture, or the sweeping view of Elliott Bay. Are you currently bleeding? Grace looked down again at the growing puddle at her feet. It was a dark crimson against the pure white marble. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Paramedics are on their way. Please stay on the line with me. Is there anyone there with you? No. I am by myself. Is there someone you can call? A family member? Your husband? Grace let out a laugh. It sounded broken and unnatural, like the noise of something splintering apart. I have been trying to call my husband all day long. He is too busy. The operator's voice grew softer, just a fraction, but it was enough for Grace to realize the woman on the other end understood. She had heard stories just like this one before. A pregnant woman in crisis. A husband who was nowhere to be found. It was a story as old as time itself. Okay, honey, the ambulance is just 3 minutes away. I want you to try and sit down. Can you manage that for me? Grace attempted to sit. Her legs buckled halfway down. She collapsed to her knees on the cold marble floor, and the phone skidded out of her reach. She could hear the operator's voice, sounding small and far away. Ma'am? Ma'am? Are you still there? I need you to respond to me. Grace tried to speak, but her mouth would not cooperate. The room began to spin, tilting sideways as her vision started to fade to gray at the edges. Her hands instinctively went to her belly. She pressed both palms flat against it. Please, please, just be okay, please. She felt one kick. It was faint, as soft as a flutter, like a butterfly caught behind a pane of glass. And then there was nothing. Complete silence. The very last thought Grace had before the darkness consumed her was that she had made so many terrible mistakes. She had stayed with him for too long. She had forgiven him too many times. She had convinced herself that his being busy meant Derek still loved her. But busy was simply a different way of saying he was choosing something else, choosing someone else, choosing absolutely anything over her. The sound of sirens began to cut through her fading consciousness, growing louder and closer with each passing second. Help was on its way. It was too late to save her marriage. But maybe, just maybe, it was not too late to save her babies. The paramedics discovered Grace unconscious on the marble floor, lying in an expanding pool of her own blood. Patient is unresponsive, female, appears to be in her early 30s, 32 weeks pregnant with twins. Significant hemorrhaging is visible. We may be looking at a placental abruption. Sarah Mitchell, the younger of the two paramedics, knelt down next to Grace as her partner, Linda, started checking her vital signs. In her 5 years on the job, Sarah had witnessed a lot. Car wrecks, heart attacks, drug overdoses, but coming across pregnant women who were alone and bleeding always felt profoundly different. Her blood pressure is 80/50. Heart rate is at 130. She is going into shock. They worked quickly. They started an IV line, fitted an oxygen mask over her face, stabilized her neck, and carefully moved her onto the gurney. Sarah could not help but notice the small details. The luxurious penthouse, the wedding photographs displayed on the wall, a handsome man in an expensive suit, a radiant bride in a lace gown. They both looked so young, full of hope, and deeply in love, and now that same bride was dying all by herself. In the back of the ambulance, Grace's eyelids fluttered open. She looked confused and terrified. "My babies," she whispered weakly. "Are my babies going to be okay?" Sarah gently took her hand and gave it a reassuring squeeze. "We are taking you to the hospital. You are going to be fine. Can you tell me your name?" "Grace. My name is Grace Holloway." "Okay, Grace. How many weeks are you?" 32 weeks. It is twins, a boy and a girl. Are they still alive? Please. You have to tell me if they are still alive. Sarah glanced at the fetal monitors. She saw 2 heartbeats. They were rapid, but they were there. They were fighting. They are holding on in there. You are all fighters. Is there anyone we should call for you? Your husband? Any family? Grace's expression crumbled. "My husband, Derek. His name is Derek Holloway. His number is saved in my phone." Linda found the phone, dialed the number, and activated the speaker. The phone rang 4 times. Derek's voice finally came on the line, sounding annoyed and slightly intoxicated. "I already told you that I would call you back." Sarah responded, her voice professional, but icy. "Mr. Holloway, this is the City Memorial Paramedic Team. We are transporting your wife, who is experiencing a possible placental abruption. It is a twin pregnancy at 32 weeks. This is a life-threatening situation. We need you to come to Mercy General Hospital immediately." There was a long silence on the other end. The background noise of the party filtered through music, laughter, and the clinking of champagne glasses. "I am sorry, but this is really terrible timing. Can you tell me exactly how serious this is?" Sarah's jaw tightened. Grace saw it, and so did Linda. "Sir, your wife is hemorrhaging. Your unborn twins are in distress. She could die. This is as serious as a situation can get. We need you at the hospital right now." "Right, okay. I will try to get there as soon as I am able to. Try." The word just hung in the tense air of the ambulance like a poison. "Sir, this is not a try situation. This is a now situation. Your wife needs you here. I understand. I will be there." He hung up the phone. He did not ask, "Is she all right?" He did not say, "Tell her that I love her." He did not promise, "I am leaving this minute." It was just a cold, dismissive, "I will be there," followed by a click. Sarah turned her head to look at Grace. Their eyes locked in a moment of shared understanding between 2 women. No words were necessary. That single look was more painful than the contractions, because it was a look of recognition. Someone else had finally seen it. Someone else had witnessed his indifference, and that meant Grace was not crazy. She was not making things up. She was not being overly dramatic, as Derek always claimed. This was real. Her husband had just been informed that his wife and unborn children might die, and his response was that he would try to show up. Try. The rest of the ambulance ride was a blur. The flashing red and white lights painted streaks outside the windows. The wail of the siren drowned out everything but the thoughts swirling in Grace's head. Memories, sharp and devastating, under the influence of the morphine, came flooding back. Derek had missed her very first ultrasound. The merger meeting was moved up at the last minute. You get it, right? It is just one appointment. And she had understood. She always made sure to understand. Derek had also missed their gender reveal party. He was in Tokyo for a conference. She ended up cutting the cake by herself. It had layers of pink and blue. Twins, a boy and a girl. She had cried as her mother held her, saying, "He is just working so hard for his family." But was he really? Their 4th anniversary had been just 3 months ago. He had canceled their special reservation at the same restaurant where he had proposed to her. There was a client dinner that he claimed could not be rescheduled. She ate Chinese takeout alone in their bedroom that night, flipping through their wedding album and wondering at what point he had stopped looking at her like she was the most important person in the world. Last week, on Thursday night, she had finally asked him directly, "Do you still love me?" Derek didn't even bother to look up from his computer. Of course, stop being so dramatic. It was not a yes. It was not a more than anything in the world. It was not a, "What kind of question is that?" It was just a command to stop being dramatic. Her feelings were treated like an interruption, a problem he had to solve, a malfunction in his otherwise flawless world. "Grace, just stay with me." Sarah's voice broke through her thoughts. "We are almost at the hospital. Just 2 more minutes. Remember to breathe." Grace tried to focus on her breathing. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. She placed her hands on her stomach, her flat palms resting on the tightly stretched skin. "I am so sorry," she whispered to her babies. "I am so sorry I didn't get out of there sooner. I am sorry I allowed him to make me think I was going crazy. I am sorry your father is the kind of man who doesn't even show up." One of the babies gave a little kick. It was weak, but it was there. A little fighter, just like the mother she was about to become. The ambulance doors swung wide open, revealing the emergency bay of Mercy General. Everything was a rush of bright lights, people hurrying, and a sense of controlled chaos. A woman in surgical scrubs hurried toward them. Her dark hair was pulled back neatly. She had a commanding air about her. Her name badge read, Dr. Caroline Cross, OBGYN. "My name is Dr. Cross. Grace, are you able to hear me?" Grace managed to nod. "We have to take you directly to an emergency C-section. Your twins are showing signs of distress. We need to deliver them right now. Do you understand what I am saying?" "Yes." "Is your husband with you?" Grace's voice cracked as she answered. "No." "Is he on his way?" "He told me he would try to make it." Dr. Cross's jaw clenched. A dark look flashed in her eyes, a fury she was struggling to keep in check. "Who else can we call for you? Your parents? A friend? Is there anyone?" Grace's mind felt completely empty. Her mother was in Florida visiting her sister. Her best friend, Marissa, was working a double shift at a different hospital on the other side of town. There is no one. I have no one. The expression on Dr. Cross's face changed. For a brief moment, it softened. Then, it hardened again with a new sense of resolve. "In that case, you have me. I will not leave your side. I give you my word." They began wheeling Grace toward the operating room. She watched the ceiling tiles slide past above her. Grace started counting them. It was something to do, something to focus on other than the rising panic. 37 tiles, and then they were at the doors to the surgical suite. As they lowered the anesthesia mask over her face, Grace had a single, clear thought. She had remained in her marriage for far too long. She had forgiven far too much. She had made herself smaller and smaller, believing that if she demanded less, Derek might finally give her something. But you can never shrink yourself enough to be loved. She understood that now. It was too late, but she finally understood. Her world faded to black. Nathan Cross was sitting in the surgical waiting room, his hands tightly clasped, his jaw set, and he was wondering what on earth he was doing there. 20 minutes ago, his life was completely different. He was at the Children's Hospital Gala. It was $1,000 a plate charity dinner. He was wearing a tuxedo and a bow tie. He was charming donors. He was giving speeches about how important it is to be there for children in need. And then his phone buzzed. It was Caroline, his sister. "Nathan, I need you to get to Mercy General, right now." There was no explanation. There was only an urgency in her voice. It was the kind of tone that meant you do not ask questions, you just get moving. So, he moved. He walked off the stage in the middle of his speech. He got into his car. He drove through the Seattle traffic as if his life depended on it, and now he found himself sitting alone in a sterile waiting room that smelled of antiseptic and burnt coffee, just waiting to find out why. The television in the corner was playing the news with the sound off. Some kind of political scandal was unfolding. The world just kept on turning as if nothing was wrong. But Nathan was not paying attention to the news. He was thinking about Derek Holloway. In the world of biotech and pharmaceuticals, everyone knew the name Derek Holloway. They either admired him or they hated him. Nathan was firmly in the group that hated him. 2 years ago, Derek's company, Holloway Pharmaceuticals, had sued Nathan's company, Crosstech Biomedical, for patent infringement. They made the claim that Nathan's groundbreaking cancer treatment was built on their own research. It was a complete lie. It was a calculated and cruel lie created to steal 5 years of Nathan's hard work. The court battle lasted for 6 months. It cost him $2 million in legal fees. In the end, Nathan had won. The judge dismissed Holloway Pharma's case, calling it frivolous and without merit. Derek had just smiled on the steps of the courthouse. He actually smiled. He told the reporters, "Sometimes you have to take a risk. This one just did not pay off. There are no hard feelings." But Nathan had a lot of hard feelings. 6 months ago, at an industry event, Derek had trapped Nathan at the bar. He had had 3 drinks and was in a mean mood. "Are you enjoying your little victory cross? If you are referring to the lawsuit where you tried to steal my research, then yes, I am." Derek leaned in very close. His breath smelled strongly of whiskey. "You should be careful. Pride always comes before the fall. I have been speaking with some investors, just mentioning some concerns I have about your testing procedures. Ethical concerns. Nothing specific, of course. Just concerns." 3 weeks after that conversation, Nathan's company was under investigation. There had been an anonymous tip about unethical testing. They were completely cleared of all charges, but the damage had already been done. Their stock price fell by 15%. 2 of their major investors decided to pull out. Derek Holloway was behind all of it, and Nathan had spent the last 6 months imagining all the different ways he could get revenge. None of his plans were legal, but all of them were satisfying. So, when Caroline had called and said Derek's name, Nathan's immediate thought was to tell her he wanted nothing to do with it. Whatever Derek Holloway needed, he could go to hell for it. But then Caroline said 5 words that changed his mind completely. "His wife is dying alone." And now Nathan was sitting in the waiting room, his hands still clasped tightly, thinking about his own mother. It was 20 years ago. It was cancer. By the time they discovered it, it was already stage 4. His father had only visited her twice in 8 months. He was too busy with his work. He was too important to sit by the side of his dying wife. She had passed away alone in a Boston hospital room at 2 o'clock in the morning. A nurse had found her. The family was called at 6. Nathan's father was in Singapore at the time. He was at a conference. He did not get home until 18 hours later. Nathan was only 14. He was away at a boarding school. He made a promise to himself that day that he would never be like his father. He would never be too busy for the people who were important to him. He would never allow someone to die alone because he had more important places to be. And yet, there he was. He was 40 years old. He was working 80 hours a week. He had no relationships that lasted for more than 3 months. He was throwing money at problems instead of actually being there for people. He had turned into his father, after all. The doors suddenly swung open. Caroline walked out. She was still in her surgical scrubs. Her hair was damp with sweat. There was blood on her sleeve. Her face was etched with exhaustion. Nathan stood up. Caro? When she saw him, her expression softened. You made it. Of course I made it. How is she doing? Caroline led him into a quiet part of the hallway. It was away from the other people who were waiting. It was away from anyone who might be listening. The twins are alive. They were born at 32 weeks. They are small, but they are strong. It is a boy and a girl. 3 pounds, 12 ounces, and 4 pounds, 1 ounce. They are both in the NICU. And what about Grace? Caroline's face grew dark. She lost a great deal of blood. It was a placental abruption. It was a complete separation. If it had been another 20 minutes, we would have lost all 3 of them. A knot formed in Nathan's chest. A woman he did not even know had almost died. She might still be dying, but she is stable for now? For the time being, she needed transfusions. She has stitches. It will take her weeks to recover, but she is alive. Where is Derek? A look of pure rage flashed in Caroline's eyes. He is not here. He never even came? Not yet. I instructed the nurses to call him 3 different times while she was in surgery. It went straight to his voicemail every time. Nathan's hands tightened into fists. That was over an hour ago. I am aware of that. His wife was on the verge of death. I am aware of that. His children were just born. I am aware of that, Nathan. Carolyn ran a hand through her hair, making it stand up in messy spikes from the stress. I have been a doctor for 12 years. I have seen my share of deadbeat dads. I have seen absent fathers. I have seen men who run away when things become difficult. But I have never seen anything like this. She called him 4 times. She was begging. She was bleeding. She was terrified. And he decided to go to a party instead. What kind of a person does that? The kind of person who does not deserve her. Nathan took out his phone. He still had Derek's personal cell phone number. It was the number Derek had given him during the lawsuit. Call me if you ever want to settle this. Nathan had never used that number. Until this moment. He dialed. The phone rang 3 times before Derek answered. His voice sounded cheerful and slightly drunk. Cross, is it not a bit late for a business call? Your wife nearly died tonight. There was a pause. He could hear music and laughter in the background. Derek made no effort to move away from the noise. What are you talking about? Grace, your pregnant wife, she had a hemorrhage. She needed an emergency C-section. Your twin babies are in the NICU. She is in the recovery room, and you are at a party. There was a longer pause this time. The noise in the background did not stop. There was no sense of urgency. There was no panic in his voice. There was only confusion. I am sorry, but how do you know about my wife? It is because someone had to be here for her. Since you obviously could not be bothered to show up. Now you just hold on a minute. She called you 4 times. Were you aware of that? She made 4 calls to you while she was bleeding on the floor of your bathroom. She left 4 voicemails begging you to please come home, and you told her that you would try to make it. Try. As if she were a dentist appointment that you might be able to fit in if the traffic was not too bad. I was in a very important meeting. No, you are at a party. I can hear it right now. I can hear the champagne. I can hear the music. I can hear the laughter. Your wife was dying, and you were busy drinking champagne with investors. Derek's voice suddenly turned cold. You have no idea what you are talking about, Cross. You are trying to interfere in my marriage. She is in room 847 at Mercy General, just in case you have any interest in meeting your children. Nathan ended the call. Caroline was watching him with a concerned look. Do you feel any better? No? Nathan sat down heavily in one of the hard plastic chairs. I actually feel worse. Because now I know for certain. He is not just a terrible businessman. He is a complete monster. So what are you going to do now? Nathan looked directly at his sister. He really looked at her. He saw the deep exhaustion. He saw the anger. He saw the fierce desire to protect. I am going to sit with her, so that she is not by herself when she wakes up. Nathan, you really do not have to do that. Yes, I do. Someone needs to be there. And it is very clear that Derek is not going to be that person. Caroline nodded her head slowly. Room 847. In the recovery ward. She should be waking up in about 30 minutes. I will be there. Thank you. For coming here. For caring about her. For being absolutely nothing like him. Nathan adjusted his bow tie as he got to his feet. I am happy you reached out to me. He made his way toward room 847, completely unaware that he was about to meet the very woman who would alter the course of his life. Grace's eyelids fluttered, revealing the harsh glare of fluorescent lights and the rhythmic beeping of machines. The ceiling above her was a grid of white tiles. Medical devices surrounded her. The sharp scent of antiseptic filled the air. She was in a hospital. Her hands instinctively went to her stomach. It was flat. It was empty. A wave of panic crashed over her. No, 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 no. Her voice was a hoarse whisper, sounding alien to her own ears. My babies. Where are my babies? A nurse entered the room. She was young, with compassionate eyes. Her name tag read, Rachel Thompson. Mrs. Holloway, you are safe now. You are in the recovery room. Your babies are doing well. They are in the neonatal intensive care unit. You have a son and a daughter. They are small, but they are fighters. Grace began to weep, a storm of relief, terror, and a powerful, overwhelming love. Can I go see them? Very soon. We need your condition to stabilize first. You lost a significant amount of blood. Dr. Cross performed exceptionally. You are going to recover fully. How long was I unconscious? For about 1 hour. The operation was a success. Grace's next words were a reflex, a habit ingrained over 4 years of marriage. Where is Derek? Rachel's friendly expression faltered, just for a moment, but it was enough for Grace to notice. The nurse knew something. Grace could feel it. Let me find out for you, dear. With that, she left. Grace remained in the hospital bed, her eyes fixed on the ceiling tiles. She started counting them. 37 tiles long, 23 tiles wide, a total of 851 tiles. 37 minutes had passed since she regained consciousness. And still there was no sign of Derek. As the fog of morphine lifted, her mind began the painful process of piecing together the truth. My body just went through the most harrowing experience imaginable. I was taken into surgery, uncertain if I would ever wake up, if my children would make it, if that was my last day on earth. And he is not here. He is still not here. What could that possibly mean? No, I know exactly what it means. I have known for months. It means I am on my own. I have been on my own. I was alone in our marriage long before I was alone in that ambulance. The late nights at the office. It all made sense now. Those nights he would return home with the scent of a perfume she did not wear clinging to him. She had convinced herself it was from a business meeting, a friendly hug from a coworker, something harmless. It was never harmless. The way he would recoil slightly from her touch, as if her hands were strange and unwanted. The way he would gaze at his phone and smile, a kind of smile she had not seen him direct at her for years. There was another woman, of course, there was another woman, who would choose to stay with their dull, pregnant wife when someone exciting was waiting, someone who did not snore, whose body was not swollen and misshapen, who demanded nothing from him except the things he was already so freely giving. His focus, his time, his love. The very things he once gave to Grace, the things she had pleaded for, the things he had been giving to someone else. A gentle rap on the door made Grace's heart leap with anticipation. Finally, Derek. But it was not Derek. A man was standing in the doorway. He was tall with dark hair, perhaps in his early 40s. He was dressed in a tuxedo, his bow tie slightly undone. He seemed awkward and out of his element, but his eyes held a deep kindness. "Hello, my name is Nathan Cross. My sister is Dr. Cross. Caroline, she was your surgeon." Grace just looked at him, this total stranger standing in her hospital room. "I'm sorry, what is going on? I realize this is highly unusual. A complete stranger just showing up like this. But Caroline gave me a call. She mentioned you were by yourself, and I felt that perhaps you should not have to be, not on a night like this." Tears welled up in Grace's eyes. She fought to hold them back, but it was impossible. "Why would you do something like that? You have no idea who I am." Nathan took a hesitant step into the room. "May I sit down?" Grace gave a small nod. He took the chair next to her bed. He placed 2 cups of what was surely terrible hospital coffee on the bedside table. "My mother passed away in a hospital room 20 years ago, all alone. My father was away at a business conference in Singapore. Caroline and I were both away at college. A nurse discovered her the next morning. She had been gone for hours. She died alone because we were all somewhere else, busy with important things, living our own lives." Grace felt a catch in her throat. "I can never fix that. I can't turn back time and be there for her when she needed me. But when Caroline called tonight and told me you were here alone after nearly dying, I knew I had to come. I hope that makes sense. You really did not need to do this. I know I did not, but I wanted to." Nathan reached for one of the coffee cups and offered it to her. "I am sure this coffee is awful. It is from a hospital vending machine, but at least it is warm." Grace accepted it, her hands trembling. They sat together in a comfortable silence for a moment. Then Grace finally asked the question to which she already knew the heartbreaking answer. "Where is my husband?" Nathan's jaw clenched. "I called him myself about 30 minutes ago. I informed him you were here and that the babies had been born. He said he would try to get here." "Try?" "Yes, try." Grace let out a laugh. It was a terrible, shattered sound. "Of course, he will try. He is excellent at trying. He just never seems to actually succeed, does he? I am so sorry." "Do not be. This is not your fault. It is mine. For continuing to stay. For believing him every single time he promised that things would be different. For making up excuses for him. For telling myself that his being busy meant he still loved me. This is not your fault, is it not? I saw all the warning signs, the late nights, the emotional distance, the way he would pull away from me. I knew deep down something was wrong, but I convinced myself I was just being paranoid, overly dramatic, exactly like he always told me I was. You are not crazy. And how would you know that? Because I heard him on the phone, both when the paramedics called and when I called. On both occasions, he prioritized something else over you. That is not you being dramatic. That is him being absent." Grace broke down crying. These were not quiet, delicate tears. They were ugly, heaving sobs that erupted from a deep, hidden place. The kind of sobs she had been suppressing for months, or maybe even for years. Nathan did not offer any hollow reassurances. He did not say, "I am sure he is on his way," or "He loves you, he just has a hard time showing it." He simply moved his chair a little closer, and he just sat there with her. Present. "I know you are in pain. I am truly sorry." 3 simple words. I am sorry. It was the first honest admission she had heard all night. The first time anyone had acknowledged that what had happened to her was unjust. That she had every right to feel hurt. Grace's crying intensified. Nathan remained with her, patient, quiet, simply being there. 10 minutes went by, then 15, then 20. Suddenly the door flew open with a bang. Derek Holloway had finally made his appearance. Derek stormed into the room like a force of nature. He was still wearing his expensive designer suit, Tom Ford, charcoal gray. His hair was styled perfectly, not a single strand out of place. His tie was loosened just so, creating the illusion that he had been worried, that he had rushed, that he was concerned. But Grace saw through the act. He smelled of champagne and a high-end cologne. His face was flushed, but from alcohol, not from sprinting down hospital hallways in a desperate attempt to get to his dying wife. His eyes darted around the room, first landing on Grace and then on Nathan. His expression instantly shifted. First came recognition. Then came pure rage. "What in the hell do you think you are doing in my wife's room?" Nathan rose from his chair slowly, deliberately, all 6 feet and 2 inches of him unfolding. He spoke in a calm, measured tone, with no need to raise his voice. "I was here." Just those 3 words. Simple and utterly devastating. Derek's face turned a shade of crimson. "Get out of here, right now." "Derek?" Grace's voice was barely a whisper as she tried to intervene. Derek ignored her, his gaze locked on Nathan. "Not you, him. I do not know what kind of scheme you are trying to pull, Cross, but my wife just came out of surgery, and I will not stand by while you try to manipulate her in her vulnerable state. I am aware she had surgery." Nathan's voice remained unnervingly calm. "I was here." He repeated the words, this time more slowly. Each word was like a twisting knife. "You son of a—" Derek lunged at him. Nathan stood his ground, not even flinching. Grace's voice sliced through the tension. "Stop." Both men froze in place. "Derek, he is telling the truth. He was here, and you were not." Derek finally turned to look at his wife. He truly saw her for the first time since he had entered the room. She was pale, with an IV line in her arm. She wore a standard hospital gown. Her hair was damp and matted with sweat. She looked exhausted, beautiful, vulnerable. His. But the way she was looking at him was different. There was no hope left in her eyes, no sign of relief that he had at last arrived, no forgiveness waiting for him. There was just an empty void. "Grace, you are being emotional. You have just undergone a major operation. The anesthesia, the pain medication. You are not thinking straight." "I am thinking with perfect clarity." "No, you are not. You do not realize what you are saying. This man is my biggest business rival. He despises me. He has probably been whispering lies into your ear. I called you 4 times. Her voice was now steady, gaining strength. Derek blinked, quickly changing his strategy. "I was in a crucial meeting with investors. You know how vital the Singapore deal is. This could either make or break our company. I was trying to secure our future. I was bleeding out. I thought I was going to lose our children. You are always convinced that something is wrong." Derek's voice shifted to that tone, the patient yet irritated one, the one he always used to make Grace feel like she was losing her mind. "Last month, it was Braxton Hicks contractions. The month before that, you were sure you had preeclampsia. The doctor told you that you were fine. You are paranoid, Grace. It is the pregnancy hormones that are making you—" "I almost died tonight." "Do not be so dramatic. I almost died." A heavy silence filled the room. The only sounds were the steady beeps of the machines, keeping time, keeping her alive. "And you were not here. You chose a group of investors over me, over our own children." "That is not fair. You are twisting my words. I was working. I was providing for our family. When was the last time you chose me, Derek?" Derek opened his mouth to speak, then closed it. He tried again. "That is not a reasonable question." "When was the last time you initiated physical contact? When was the last time you even asked me about my day, or how I was feeling, or about the babies? When was the last time you looked at me with the same excitement you have when your phone buzzes? Grace, I work 14-hour days to give us the life we have. The penthouse apartment, your luxury car, the expensive private schools our children will attend. Everything you possess is a result of my hard work. I do not care about the penthouse. Derek stopped short. He blinked in confusion. What? The penthouse apartment means nothing to me. Neither does the luxury car or the expensive schools. All I ever wanted was you, us, but there is no us anymore, is there? There is only you and your work and your phone and whatever else you are doing when you are away from home. And then there is me, waiting. I am always waiting. For the first time, Grace's inner voice was perfectly clear. There was no more self-doubt, no more questioning. For 3 years, I have been the one saying sorry. Sorry for needing him. Sorry for wanting him to come home. Sorry for asking where he was. Sorry for being lonely. Sorry for being pregnant and sick and emotional. I apologized for simply existing in a way that was inconvenient for him. I am done apologizing. I did not cause this. He did. He made this choice. Every single late night. Every ignored phone call. Every time he looked at me as if I were a problem instead of his wife. He made these choices. And now, I am choosing myself. Out loud, she simply said, "Leave." Derek just stared at her. What did you say? Leave. I do not want you in this room. Grace, you are not thinking straight. It is the medication from the surgery. I am thinking more clearly than I have in years. Get out. She told you to get out. It was Nathan's voice. It was smooth like silk, but strong as steel underneath. Derek spun around to face him. This is all your fault. You have turned her against me. You came in here with your sob story and poisoned my own wife's mind. Your wife was dying alone. For the first time, Nathan's voice boomed with a rage he could no longer contain. While you were popping champagne, charming investors, and doing God knows what at your little party, your wife was bleeding out on your bathroom floor. She called you 4 times. 4 times. She was begging you for help. She was bleeding and terrified. And you told her you would try to make it. As if she was just a dental cleaning, you might be able to fit in if you hit all the green lights. You have no idea about the kind of pressure I am under. What I understand is that I despise you. I have despised you for years. You tried to steal my life's work. You tried to ruin my company. You are a liar and a cheat, and you represent everything that is rotten in our industry. But this? Nathan moved closer to the bed. This makes you far worse than a bad businessman. This makes you, boy, a spineless coward. A coward who left his wife completely alone when she was desperate for his help. Derek's hands balled into fists. Get out of here before I have security remove you. Go ahead and call them. I would love nothing more than to tell hospital security exactly why Grace's husband finally decided to show up 3 hours late, while a complete stranger had to sit with her because she had no one else. Derek's phone vibrated in his pocket. He glanced down at it. It was pure instinct. A reflex. He could not stop himself. Grace saw the look on his face change. It softened, just for a moment. She knew that look. She had seen it so many times before. It was the look on his face when he would read text messages late in the evening. The one he had when he would take phone calls in another room. The way he would smile at his phone screen as if it held a wonderful secret. That look was never for her. It had never once been for her. Who is she? Derek froze, the phone still in his grasp. What? I asked you, who is she? The woman you are texting, the woman who gets you to smile that way, the woman you obviously wish you were with this very second. Who is she? All the color drained from Derek's face. And in that moment, Grace knew for sure. She had always suspected it, but now she was looking along at the proof. Derek just stood there, completely still, phone in his hand, his face as white as a ghost. Grace, it is not what it looks like. Stop. Her voice was now like ice. Cold, brittle, and final. Do not you dare lie to my face right now. Not in this place, not after what has happened. Tell me the truth. For once in our entire marriage, just tell me the absolute truth. There was only silence. The hospital machines beeped. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steady beeps. Each sound marked the passing of time, measuring the exact moment a marriage died. How long has this been going on? Derek stared down at the polished floor. Grace? How long? 6 months. The hospital room seemed to spin. 6 months. Grace quickly did the math in her head. She was 7 months pregnant. You began cheating on me after I was already pregnant. It is not like that at all. Then tell me what it is like. Please, I want you to explain it. Make it make some kind of sense. Help me understand how you could start sleeping with another woman while I was at home, carrying your children. Nathan quietly took a step backward. He was giving them their space, but his presence was still felt. Solid, like an anchor in the storm. Derek nervously ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair. It was the first time it looked messy all night. You were different. As soon as you got pregnant, your entire world became about the baby. Then, the babies. It was all about doctor's visits and what color to paint the nursery and what names to pick. I felt like I was being pushed aside, like I did not matter to you anymore. Grace let out a laugh. It was a terrible, ugly sound, full of bitterness and heartbreak. So you decided to push me out of your life completely. I never planned for any of this to happen. It just did. Things became so complicated, and I did not know how to end it. Who is she? Derek paused for a moment. Derek, tell me her name. Vanessa. The name felt like a physical blow, knocking all the air out of her. Vanessa? Nathan's voice was suddenly sharp, full of anger. You mean Vanessa Reed, your own executive assistant? Derek's silence was all the confirmation they needed. Grace's thoughts were racing. Vanessa Reed, 28 years old, stunningly beautiful, an MBA from Stanford, always dressed impeccably, always right there at Derek's side. Grace had met her, not just once, but many times. At the company galas, at holiday parties, in Derek's own office, Grace had smiled at her. She had made polite conversation. She had asked about Vanessa's family. She had complimented her clothes. Just last Christmas, Grace had personally sent her a box of homemade cookies. It was her grandmother's special recipe, chocolate chip with a sprinkle of sea salt. Vanessa had even sent back a thank you note. It said, "You are so incredibly sweet. Derek is so lucky to have a wife like you. Derek is so lucky to have you." The trip to Hawaii, Grace's voice was unnervingly calm. Back in March, for that big pharmaceutical conference. Derek's guilty expression confirmed it before a single word left his mouth. She was with you there, wasn't she? Grace, I am the one who packed your suitcase for that trip. I put in your favorite brand of sunscreen, the blue swimming trunks. I even hid a little note inside your luggage. It told you how much I loved you, that I was already missing you. Did you even bother to read it, or did she find it before you did? Derek did not say anything. Answer my question. I read the note. And what did you do after that? Did you go straight to her hotel room? Grace, please do not make me do this. But answer me. Yes? Fine? Yes. I went to her room. Grace shut her eyes. She took a deep breath. Then she opened them again. The night I told you we were having twins. May 15th. It was our 4-year wedding anniversary. I cooked your favorite meal. I put on that dress you bought for me when we were in Paris. I had the ultrasound pictures set up in a beautiful frame. 2 tiny heartbeats. Twins. I could not wait to tell you. Derek's composure finally broke. You got home 3 hours late. You told me there was a massive traffic jam on the bridge. Grace, you were with her on our anniversary, on the very same day that I found out we were having 2 babies. You were with her. It was not supposed to be anything serious. It was just a mistake, a one-time thing. But then it just kept happening, and I did not know how to make it stop. You make it stop by stopping. You make it stop by not going to her room, by not sending her texts, by not choosing her over your pregnant wife every single day for the last 6 months. Do you love her? Derek did not give an answer. Derek, do you love her? I do not know. Do you love me? Of course I do not. Grace's voice finally cracked. Do not you dare say it if it is not true. Do you still love me? Me, the woman you married, the mother of your unborn children. Do you love me? Derek looked at her. He truly looked at her, and he said absolutely nothing. His silence was the only answer she needed. Get out. Grace, we can work it through this. We can go to marriage counseling. I will end things with Vanessa. I will cut off all communication with her. We have children on the way now. We have to at least try. She asked you to leave. Nathan's voice had a dangerous edge now. She has asked you several times, so go, before I am forced to physically escort you out of this room. You stay out of this, Cross. This is between me and my wife. You mean your wife that you cheated on, your wife that you abandoned, your wife who almost bled to death tonight because you were too busy with your assistant to pick up your phone. Derek lunged toward Nathan. Nathan sidestepped him, effortlessly. It was a practiced move, as if he was expecting it. Derek stumbled off balance. He had to catch himself on the wall. I could have you charged with assault, Nathan said, his voice perfectly calm. Hospitals have security cameras everywhere. It would be very well documented. Derek straightened his suit jacket. He tried to pull himself together. This is not over. Yes, it is. Grace's voice was quiet, but it was final. You are the one who ended it 6 months ago when you chose her. You ended it today when you ignored my calls. You ended it the moment you walked in here, 3 hours late, smelling like expensive champagne. It is over, Derek. You need to accept that. You are going to live to regret this. The only thing I regret is not leaving you much sooner. Derek looked back and forth between Grace and Nathan one last time. He was calculating. He was weighing his chances. He knew when he had lost. My attorneys will be in contact. And with that, he left. The door clicked shut behind him. The room became silent except for the sound of the machines, beeping, beeping, steadily keeping Grace alive. Grace stared at the closed door for a very long moment. Then her body began to tremble. She was not crying. She was shaking. Her entire body was shaking uncontrollably. It was as if all the adrenaline was finally leaving her system. All of the terror. All of the strength it had taken to say all of those things. It was all gone. She felt completely hollow. Nathan sat back down in the chair beside her. He did not say a word. He just sat there. Grace shook for 5 whole minutes, and then, finally, it stopped. She turned to look at Nathan, this man, this stranger who had just witnessed her at her absolute lowest point. Thank you. You do not need to thank me. Yes, I do. You stayed here with me. You did not have to do that, but you stayed. I knew. Grace's voice was barely a whisper. Deep down, I knew something was not right. The late nights at the office. The way he became so distant, the smell of perfume on his dress shirts. But I kept telling myself that I was just imagining it all, that I was being paranoid, that all the pregnancy hormones were making me act crazy. You are not crazy. I should have confronted him a long time ago, months ago, instead of letting it get to this. No. Nathan's voice was firm. Do not do that to yourself. Do not do what? Do not take the blame for his choices. He was the one who cheated. He was the one who lied. He gaslit you. He deliberately made you question your own sanity. That is all on him. It is not on you. But I could see all the signs, and he lied to you about every single one of them. He made you feel guilty for even asking the questions, right? Grace just nodded as the tears slid down her cheeks. That is the classic pattern of a narcissistic abuser. They twist things around to make you doubt your own perception of reality. They make you believe that you are the one with the problem. You are too needy. You are too emotional. You are too suspicious. But you were never any of those things. You were right all along. Your gut feeling was right. He was just a very convincing liar. Grace watched the city skyline ignite with the pink and orange of a new day. She had been awake for the past 24 hours, a marathon of pain and revelation. In that time, she had given birth to twins, brushed against death, and uncovered her husband's affair, which led to the end of her marriage. Yet the sun still rose. There was a strange beauty in that, a hopeful message. The world did not pause for a broken heart. It moved forward, and that meant she could too. Mrs. Holloway? A nurse named Rachel appeared at her door. Do you feel well enough to go see your babies? In that single moment, everything else vanished. The betrayal, the fury, the sheer exhaustion, none of it mattered anymore. Yes. Oh, please. Yes. They took Grace to the neonatal intensive care unit in a wheelchair, with Nathan walking quietly beside her. She had asked him to be there, needing the support of a friend since it was obvious Derek would be a no-show. The unit was a sanctuary of hushed tones and dim, warm lighting. The only sounds were the soft, rhythmic beeps of tiny heart monitors. Nurses glided silently between incubators, where parents kept vigil, their hopes and prayers filling the air. Rachel guided them to 2 incubators placed next to each other. One was labeled Baby Girl Holloway, 3 pounds and 12 ounces. The other, Baby Boy Holloway, 4 pounds and 1 ounce. Inside were 2 impossibly small, impossibly perfect little humans. They were connected to a maze of wires and tubes, but they were breathing, moving, and very much alive. Emma was blessed with a full head of dark hair, just like Derek's. Lucas, on the other hand, was a bald, pink little thing with Grace's nose. They were absolutely perfect. A fresh wave of tears began to stream down Grace's face. But these were different. They were a complex cocktail of joy, grief, overwhelming love, sorrow, and stark terror. They're just so tiny, she whispered. They're fighters, Rachel reassured her gently. Their vital signs are strong, and their oxygen levels are good. Dr. Cross says they're doing exceptionally well for being born at 32 weeks. Am I allowed to touch them? Grace asked. Of course, Rachel said, opening a small porthole on the incubator. Grace extended a single finger and gently touched Emma's hand. Emma's tiny fingers instinctively wrapped around it with a surprisingly strong grip. That tiny, perfect grip changed everything. In that instant, Grace's entire universe shifted on its axis. She then reached for Lucas, feeling his perfect little hand in hers. A clear voice rose from deep within her. I will never let you grow up seeing your mother settle for less than she deserves. I will not let you believe that love is supposed to feel like loneliness. I will be your example of strength and self-respect. even if I have to burn my entire world to the ground and start from scratch. Even if that means raising you as a single mother. Even when it gets hard and I am terrified, I will do this for both of you and for myself. Aloud, she only whispered, "Hello, my babies. I am your mom. I love you both so much. I promise that I will give you the life you deserve, no matter what it takes." One of the babies gave a little kick. It was Emma, her strong little fighter. Nathan stood a few feet away, just watching, his eyes shining with unshed tears. Grace looked up at him. "Thank you for being here with me." "There is nowhere else I would rather be," he replied. 4 days went by. Grace's body began to heal in the hospital, while her twins remained in the neonatal intensive care unit. Derek made one appearance, which lasted all of 10 minutes. He snapped a few pictures for his social media accounts and then left. Nathan, however, visited every single day. He brought her food, coffee, and books she was too tired to read. He simply made sure she was not alone. On the 4th day, Dr. Caroline Cross came into the room holding discharge papers. "You are healing nicely, Grace. Your blood count is back to normal, and there are no signs of infection. You can go home today." "When can my babies come home?" Grace asked immediately. "We are probably looking at another 2 weeks. They are gaining weight and getting stronger each day. Is there a way I can stay here with them?" Caroline paused for a moment. "We have a family room, but it is a shared space, not private. Grace, you need proper rest in a real bed." Grace fell silent. Home? The word meant the penthouse she shared with Derek. It was a place where every corner held a memory of the lie she had been living. She had not spoken to Derek since that first night, ignoring his endless calls, texts, and flower deliveries. "Where will you go?" Caroline asked softly. Just then a knock came at the door, and Nathan walked in. He was carrying lunch from that great sandwich shop downtown. He took one look at Grace's expression and stopped. "What is wrong?" "She is being discharged," Caroline said. "But she does not want to return to the penthouse." "Then do not," Nathan said, without a moment's hesitation. "What?" Grace asked. "Do not go back there, at least not right now," he urged. "But I do not have anywhere else to go." "Yes, you do," Nathan said, setting the lunch down. "I own a guest house on my property out in Marin County. It has 3 bedrooms and comes fully furnished. It has been sitting empty for the last 6 months. You can stay there." "Nathan, I could not possibly, Why not?" he interrupted. "Because I hardly know you. You do not owe me a thing. Besides, people will talk. Let them. You need a safe place to recover, somewhere Derek cannot just pop in whenever he feels like it. The guest house is completely separate from my home, a good 200 yards away. You will have total privacy. This is just too much to ask. I have an empty house, and you need a place to stay. This is just a simple matter of logistics." Caroline chimed in. "Grace, you should accept his offer. You need a calm, stress-free environment. Marin County would be the perfect place for you to recover." "I do not want to be a burden," Grace said quietly. "You are not a burden," Nathan stated firmly. "Please, just let me help you." Grace looked at him, truly seeing him for the first time. "Why are you doing all of this?" Nathan sat down and took a deep breath. "I mentioned my mother and how she died alone. What I did not tell you was that my father had affairs, multiple ones, throughout my entire childhood. My mother knew about them. We all did. But he would always deny it and make her feel like she was crazy for even asking. It sounds a lot like what Derek does to you." Grace felt the air leave her lungs. She spent her whole life making excuses for him, convincing herself that she was just being paranoid and that she should be grateful. She died still defending him. "I am so sorry," Grace murmured. "Do not be. That experience taught me what kind of man not to be. It also taught me to recognize narcissistic abuse when I see it. What Derek is doing to you, what he has been doing for years, is a textbook case. The gaslighting, the blame shifting, making you question your own sanity. You are not crazy, Grace. You are being abused. The word hung heavy in the air between them. Abused. Grace had never used that word to describe her marriage. Derek had never laid a hand on her or even raised his voice. He was just busy, distant, and emotionally unavailable. But she was starting to realize that emotional abuse was still abuse, and she had been living with it for years. "Okay," she finally whispered. "Yes, thank you. I will stay at the guest house, just until I can figure out my next move." "You can stay as long as you need," he promised. As Nathan helped Grace pack her belongings, Nurse Rachel appeared in the doorway once more. "Mrs. Holloway, you have a visitor. Who is it?" "It is your husband." "And he brought his lawyer." A knot of dread formed in Grace's stomach. They made their way down to the lobby, where Derek was waiting in a crisp navy blue suit. Standing beside him was a man in his 60s with silver hair, an expensive briefcase, and the cold eyes of a shark. He was clearly the lawyer. "Grace," Derek began, "we need to discuss the custody arrangement." The lawyer, whose name tag read Richard Brennan, Esquire, stepped forward. "Mrs. Holloway, I am Richard Brennan, Mr. Holloway's legal counsel. We need to have a conversation about the custody of your children." Grace's hands tightened on the arms of her wheelchair. "The babies are still in the neonatal intensive care unit." "We are aware of that. This is about their custody once they are discharged. Mr. Holloway is ready to file for joint custody, a 50-50 arrangement." "50-50?" Grace's voice was barely a whisper. "It is the standard arrangement in Washington state for parents of equal standing," Brennan said smoothly. Nathan stepped forward. "Equal standing? He was not even here for their birth." Brennan's expression remained unchanged. "Mr. Cross, I do not believe you are a member of this family. This is a private discussion. I am her friend, and I am not going anywhere. We can have this conversation once Mrs. Holloway has her own attorney present. Does she have legal representation?" Grace shook her head. "In that case, I suggest you find someone quickly. Mr. Holloway is also concerned about your current living situation. Moving in with a man you have known for less than a week raises serious questions about your judgment and stability." That was it. Something inside Grace snapped. 4 days ago, she would have cowered and apologized. But not anymore. "You want to talk about judgment?" Her voice was as cold as steel. "Let's talk about how Derek ignored 4 emergency calls while I was hemorrhaging, or how he finally showed up 3 hours after our children were born. Let's talk about the 6 months he spent cheating on me with his assistant while I was carrying his twins." Brennan's professional mask did not slip. "Mrs. Holloway, marital issues are considered separate from a person's fitness as a parent." "Are they? I would argue that a man who cannot prioritize his wife during a medical emergency might also struggle to prioritize the needs of his children. If you are going to start making accusations, these are not accusations. They are facts, all documented by the hospital's phone records, testimony from the nurses, and reports from the paramedics. Not to mention the dozen voicemails still on my phone. Would you like to hear them? The ones of me begging my husband to come home while I was bleeding out on our bathroom floor." For the first time, Derek spoke. "Grace, you are being completely unreasonable. No, I am being a mother. And I am finished with you making me feel crazy for expecting you to be a decent human being." Nathan then took out his phone. "Mr. Brennan, I strongly suggest your client backs down now." "Is that a threat?" the lawyer asked. No, it is a promise. If Derek decides to pursue this custody battle, I will personally finance Grace's entire legal team. We will hire the best divorce attorneys in Seattle, the kind that cost $2,000 an hour. Mr. Cross, your money does not impress me. It ought to, because when this goes to court, every journalist in town will learn that Derek Holloway, the CEO of a major pharmaceutical company, walked out on his pregnant wife during a life-threatening emergency. They will learn that he ignored her desperate calls so he could sip champagne with his business partners. They will learn that he was unfaithful to his wife while she was carrying his own children, and they will learn his mistress is a 28-year-old who works for him. The color drained from Derek's face. What do you suppose your board of directors will do with that information? Or your investors? That Singapore deal is still up in the air, isn't it? Do you really think they'll want to be in business with a man whose personal life is a train wreck on public display? Brennan shifted his briefcase. Negative press can cut both ways. Can it really? I have hard proof. I have hospital admission forms, complete phone records, sworn statements from the paramedics, the nurses, and the doctors. What have you got? A guess about where Grace is staying? Nathan pressed on. This is how things are going to unfold. Grace is going to retain a lawyer, a very skilled one. You will then come to a reasonable custody agreement. Grace will have primary physical custody. Derek will be granted supervised visits until the twins are mature enough to spend longer periods away from their mother. Supervised visits are for parents who are unfit. Precisely. Derek lunged. I am not an unfit parent. You were absent for their birth. You have seen them only 2 times in 4 days. You are standing here with an attorney instead of being upstairs getting to know your own children. Tell me, what part of that makes you a fit father? Derek's gaze shot between Grace and Nathan. His face was flushed, his hands balled into fists. He was a man of business, always calculating risks, considering outcomes. He recognized a losing position when he saw one. This is not finished. Oh, yes it is, Grace said softly. You finished it 6 months ago when you picked her. You finished it for good today when you arrived with a lawyer instead of a bouquet of flowers. It is finished, Derek. It is time to accept that. You will live to regret this. The only thing I regret is that I didn't leave you sooner. Derek and Brennan turned and left. Grace remained in the wheelchair, her body trembling. But it was a different kind of shaking this time. It was not from fear. It was from adrenaline. It was from power. Can I believe I actually did that? You certainly did, Nathan confirmed, and you were absolutely magnificent. Caroline emerged from just around the corner. I heard everything. Grace Holloway, you are officially my new idol. Grace let out a laugh, which turned into a sob, and then back into a laugh. I don't have the slightest idea what I am doing. Who among us ever does? Caroline replied. The important thing is that you are doing it. That is all that matters. They began their drive to Marin County in Nathan's Tesla. The ride was smooth and silent. Grace watched as the Seattle skyline faded in the rearview mirror. I have never in my life stood up to him that way. What does it feel like? It is terrifying, and also wonderful, truly wonderfully good. The estate was breathtaking, a masterpiece of modern design with windows stretching from the floor to the ceiling, offering a panoramic view of the San Francisco Bay. Lush trees surrounded the property, and the air had a fresh, clean scent. The guest house was a separate structure from the main residence, complete with its own private driveway, ensuring total seclusion. The interior was a sanctuary of peace. It featured an open layout living area with clean white walls, polished wood floors, and inviting furniture. There were 3 bedrooms, a large master suite and 2 smaller ones. One of the rooms had been transformed into a nursery, furnished with 2 cribs, a changing station, a rocking chair, and framed by soft gray drapes. Nathan, how did you manage all of this? Caroline was a huge help. She has a sixth sense for what babies require. A welcome basket was sitting on the kitchen island, filled with groceries, coffee, prenatal vitamins, and a plush blanket. Inside was a note written in a distinctly feminine script. Welcome to your new home. You are going to be a phenomenal mother. Please call me anytime, day or night. All my best, Caroline. P.S. Nathan is on your speed dial as number 2. I am number 1. Please use us. Grace lifted the card and read it a second time. Tears began to well up in her eyes. Why are the 2 of you being so incredibly kind to me? Nathan placed her suitcase on the floor. Because you are deserving of kindness. You deserve to have people in your life who show up for you, who keep their promises, and who do not force you to plead for basic human decency. 2 weeks after that, the twins were discharged from the hospital. Emma and Lucas. Each weighed 5 pounds. They were healthy, strong, and absolutely perfect. Grace brought them to the guest house, a temporary shelter that was beginning to feel like a real home. She stood inside the nursery, cradling a baby in each arm. This was the life she had been fighting to have. It was never about a marriage to a man who did not want to be a husband. It was about this. It was about her children. It was about herself. It was a chance to create something genuine. Nathan was a constant source of support, but never in an overbearing way. He was simply present. He would bring by bags of groceries. He would hold Emma while Grace bottle-fed Lucas. He made late-night trips for diapers without ever being asked. He treated Grace as if she were a capable and strong woman. Not a broken person who needed to be rescued, but simply someone who needed a little help. One night, at 3 a.m, Grace was in the middle of feeding Lucas. Nathan tapped gently on the door. Can you not sleep either? Sleep is just a concept at this point, Grace replied, with a weary but genuine smile. Would you like some company? Always. Nathan settled into the other rocking chair, the one that had been intended for Derek, but would now never be used by him. They sat together in a comfortable quiet. Lucas made a soft noise, and Emma let out a little sigh from her crib. What is the reason you are doing all of this? Grace finally asked. I mentioned before, my mother, I feel like there is more to the story than that. Nathan remained silent for a long while. The night Caroline contacted me, I was attending a charity gala. I was on stage giving a speech about the importance of being there for children in need. Then she told me that a woman was on the verge of dying alone because her husband was too preoccupied. In that moment, I saw that I was turning into my own father, too preoccupied for the things that truly matter. I was so focused on building an empire that I forgot to build relationships. You are not anything like your father, am I not? I work 80-hour weeks. I have not had a relationship last longer than 3 months in the last 5 years. My solution to problems is to throw money at them instead of my own time and effort. That was true until I met you. Until you met me? Helping you is not solely for your benefit. It is also about my becoming the person I desperately needed when I was young, the person my mother needed. It is about discovering the man I truly want to be, not the billionaire, not the chief executive officer, just me. Grace reached across the small space between them and took his hand. Thank you for truly seeing me, for being present, for never making me feel weak. Grace, you are the strongest woman I have ever known. 6 months went by. The King County Courthouse was a gray, imposing structure against the bleak November sky. Grace stood on the courthouse steps, her hands trembling just a bit, preparing to walk into her final divorce proceeding. It had been 6 months since that awful night. 6 months filled with healing, with personal growth, with the process of becoming a new version of herself. Jennifer Morrison, her divorce lawyer, gently touched her arm. "Are you ready?" Grace gave a firm nod. She was ready. Once inside, she saw Derek sitting with Vanessa. They had arrived as a couple, holding hands, yet they both looked utterly miserable. It seemed the fantasy of being a mistress did not translate well to the reality of being a wife. The daily routines, the ordinariness, the hard work that a real relationship requires. Vanessa appeared exhausted and resentful, as if she had been sold a false promise. Derek looked much older, with more gray in his hair and new lines etched around his eyes. As Grace observed them, she felt nothing at all. There was no anger, no sense of triumph, not even a trace of pity. There was only a profound sense of relief that she was not in Vanessa's position. Jennifer began to present the proposed settlement. "We are petitioning for full physical custody of the minor children, Emma Grace Holloway and Lucas James Holloway, to be awarded to Grace Holloway. Mr. Holloway will be granted supervised visitation every other Saturday for a period of 4 hours. This supervision requirement may be removed once the children reach the age of 3, contingent upon his consistent attendance at visits and a demonstrated pattern of engagement. Child support will be set at $5,000 per month for each child, for a total of $10,000. Regarding marital assets, the penthouse condominium has been sold. The proceeds will be divided to 60-40 in Mrs. Holloway's favor, which is justified by Mr. Holloway's marital infidelity and his abandonment of his wife during a medical crisis." Derek's attorney attempted to interject. "Your Honor, a 60-40 division is punitive." Judge Patricia Henderson, a woman in her 60s with piercing eyes, stopped him cold. "Mr. Shrimster Brennan, your client engaged in an affair while his wife was undergoing a high-risk pregnancy and then ignored numerous emergency calls, which almost led to her dying alone. The 60-40 split is, in my view, quite charitable. I recommend you take it before I reconsider and make it 70-30. The judge then addressed Derek directly. "Mr. Holloway, I urge you to use this supervised time to forge a real bond with your children. They are entitled to a father who makes an effort. I suggest you become that father." The gavel struck the block. The divorce is granted. Custody is awarded to Mrs. Holloway, as specified. This court is adjourned. And just like that, it was done. Grace stepped out of the courthouse and into the crisp November air. Nathan was there, leaning against his car, waiting for her. He had attended the hearing, sitting quietly in the back of the courtroom to offer his silent support. "How are you feeling?" "I feel light. That is the only word for it. It is as if I have been carrying an immense weight for years, and I have finally been able to set it down. That is good. That is very good." They stood together for a moment on the courthouse steps, Grace in a simple navy dress and Nathan in a tailored suit. "So, what comes next?" Nathan asked. Grace broke into a smile. "I am enrolling in school again. I am going to study child psychology through an online program. I want to be able to help other women who have been through what I have. I want to help them see the signs of narcissistic abuse before they find themselves near death on a bathroom floor." "That is a wonderful goal, Grace. And for a while, I'm just going to focus on myself. I need to discover who I am without having someone else define me." "That is a wise choice." Grace paused, turning to look Nathan squarely in the eye. "But after that period of self-discovery is over, after I have a better sense of who I am, maybe we could go for coffee. Real coffee this time, not the kind that comes from a hospital vending machine." A warm smile spread across Nathan's face. "I would like that very much. It would not be a date, though. Not right away. Not right away. Nathan echoed. But perhaps one day. Perhaps one day. Grace started to walk away, but then she hesitated and turned back. Nathan, there is something I have to tell you, and I need to say it right now before I talk myself out of it. Nathan's expression grew serious. Okay. 6 months ago, you were there for me. You were there every single day, for every 3 in the morning feeding, for every anxiety-filled moment, for everything. You had no obligation to be there. You did not owe me anything, but you were there anyway. Grace, he started, but she cut him off. Let me finish, he said gently. Emma and Lucas have no memory of Derek. He stopped coming around when they were only 3 months old. To them, he is a stranger, but they know you, Nathan. Lucas lights up the moment he hears your voice. Emma finds her deepest sleep resting on your shoulder. When they cry, it is you they call for. Nathan's eyes were shining with unshed tears. You are the one changing diapers at 3 in the morning. You are the one who sings them lullabies. You read them stories every single night. You are always there. So I want you to know, if it is something you want, if you feel ready, I would be honored for you to be their father, officially, on their birth certificates, not just the man they love, but their legal dad. Emma and Lucas Cross. Or maybe Cross Holloway. It would be your choice. A heavy silence filled the space between them. Nathan just stood there, completely still, his gaze locked on Grace. His eyes now red with emotion. Are you asking me if I want to adopt the twins? She whispered. I am asking if you want to be their dad, in every way that matters. Legally, officially, not just Uncle Nathan. I want you to be dad, daddy, their father. Nathan closed the distance between them, one slow step at a time, until he was right in front of her. Grace Holloway, these past 6 months have been the greatest of my entire 40 years, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Nathan, she began, waking up each morning knowing that I would get to see you, and Emma, and Lucas. That has been a profound gift. It is a gift I never thought I would deserve, but one I am thankful for every single day. I love those kids. I love them so much, Grace. I love the way Lucas's tiny hand wraps around my finger. I love how Emma drifts off to sleep on my shoulder. I even love their 3 in the morning wake-up cries. I love the sweet smell of their hair. I love absolutely everything about them. Grace felt her breath catch in her throat. And I love you. I have loved you since that terrible night in the hospital, when you showed a strength I had never witnessed before. My love for you grows stronger every day. I love how you fight for what is right. I love how fiercely you love your children. I love how you have rebuilt your entire world from nothing. You never, ever gave up. So, my answer is yes. 1,000,000 times, yes. I want to be their father. I want to sign the adoption papers. I want to legally change their names. I want to be there for every parent-teacher conference, every single doctor's appointment, every birthday, and every Christmas morning. I want all of it. Grace was openly crying now, but they were tears of pure joy. But Grace, there's one more thing that I want. What is it? Nathan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small, velvet box. Grace's hands immediately flew to her mouth in shock. This is not at all how I planned to do this, he admitted. I imagined something romantic, maybe on a beach at sunset with candles everywhere. But Grace, I have been waiting 6 long months to say this, and I cannot possibly wait 1 more minute. Then, right there on the steps of the courthouse, Nathan lowered himself to one knee. Grace Holloway, you inspire me to be a better person, a better man, a better father, and a better partner. I cannot promise you a perfect life. I am sure I will make plenty of mistakes. But I can promise that I will always be there for you. I will always answer your call. I will always put you and our children first. That is my vow. Grace, will you marry me?" Grace looked down at Nathan, the man who had truly saved her, the man who had never left her side, the man who loved her children as if they were his own. "Yes," she breathed, 1,000 times. "Yes." Nathan rose to his feet, slid the beautiful ring onto her finger, and then he kissed her. He kissed her right there on the courthouse steps, as people walking by paused to watch. They smiled, and a few even began to applaud. Grace laughed through her happy tears. "I cannot believe this is actually happening." "You should believe it," he whispered, "because this is real. All of it is real." 18 months later, it was a Saturday morning, in their Sausalito home. It was no longer the guest house. It was their home, a place they shared together. The kitchen was filled with bright, warm sunlight and the happy chaos of family life. Emma and Lucas, now 2 years old, sat in matching high chairs, wearing identical pajamas. They had pancake bits everywhere, sticky fingers, and faces filled with pure delight. Nathan was at the stove, flipping more pancakes, wearing a funny apron that read, "World's Okayest Dad." Grace was making coffee, her 7-month pregnant belly gently bumping against the kitchen counter. Their third baby was on the way. "Daddy, I need more juice," Emma demanded, holding her cup high in the air. Nathan grinned at her. "What's the magic word, Emmy Bug?" "Puis," she chirped. "That's my girl," he said, pouring her some juice and planting a kiss on her forehead. Lucas started banging his spoon on his high chair tray. "Dada! Dada! Up," he chanted. "Right after we finish breakfast, buddy. You need to eat your pancakes." Grace watched the scene unfold, her heart feeling so full, it felt like it might burst. This was what a family looked like. It was not perfect. It was messy and chaotic and utterly beautiful. Nathan noticed her staring at him. "What are you looking at?" he asked with a smile. "Nothing," she replied. "I'm just really happy." "Me too," he said. He walked over to her and gently placed his hand on her belly. "And how is baby Cross doing in there?" "This one is active, very active," she laughed. "I think we might have a soccer player on our hands." "Just like his big brother Lucas," Nathan added. Emma suddenly yelled with excitement, "Mama! Daddy! Look!" She was holding up a crayon drawing. It showed a group of stick figures, a mama, a daddy, an Emmy, a Luce, and a tiny little baby. "That is so beautiful, sweetheart," Grace said. "That's our family," Emma announced proudly. "That's right, baby girl. That is our family," Nathan said, his voice growing quiet. "Grace? Yes?" "Thank you," he said softly. "For what?" she asked, confused. "For letting me be their dad. For letting me be your husband. For giving me this. All of this." Grace reached out and took his hand in hers. "Thank you for showing up. That first night, and every single night since then. I will always show up for you," he promised. Always. Lucas broke the tender moment by shouting, "Dada! Pancake! Now!" Nathan laughed. "Well, duty calls." Just then the doorbell rang. Grace went to open it and found a delivery man on the porch. "I have a delivery for Nathan Cross?" he asked. "That is us," Grace said. The man handed her a large, official-looking envelope. Grace carefully tore it open and began to read the document inside. Tears immediately sprang to her eyes. "Nathan! Nathan, you have to come here right now!" Nathan hurried into the room with Lucas balanced on his hip, his shirt now smeared with pancake batter. "What is it? What is wrong?" Grace held up the paper, her hand shaking with happiness. "It is official. The adoption was finalized. You are their legal father, Emma and Lucas Cross. It is all done." Nathan gently set Lucas down on the floor and took the paper from her. It was a certificate of adoption for Emma Grace Cross, and another one for Lucas James Cross. Listed under legal father was the name Nathan William Cross. The date read November 1st, 2027. Nathan's own eyes filled with tears as he read it. "I am their dad," he whispered in awe. "You have always been their dad," Grace said softly. "This just makes it official for the rest of the world." Emma toddled over to them. "Daddy cry?" she asked with concern. Nathan scooped her up into a hug, then lifted Lucas into his other arm, holding both of his children tightly. "These are happy tears, Emmy Bug. These are very happy tears." "Happy tears," Emma repeated, clapping her hands in delight. Lucas reached out and gently patted Nathan's cheek. "Dada, my Dada." "That is right, buddy. I am your Dada, and I will be forever." Grace rested her hand on Nathan's shoulder, and they stood there for a long moment, a complete family. If this were a movie, the camera would slowly pull back to reveal a kitchen bathed in morning light, pancakes cooking on the stove, crayon drawings taped to the refrigerator, and the adoption certificate lying on the counter. It was a picture of a family that was imperfect, real, and incredibly beautiful. On the wall, a professional photograph of Grace, Nathan, Emma, and Lucas hung, everyone beaming with happiness. Beneath it was a small plaque that read, "Family is not always about blood. It is about the people who show up, who stay, who love you at your worst and celebrate you at your best. This is our family, built on love, built on choice, and built to last." Grace's inner voice spoke with finality. "A year and a half ago, I nearly died all alone. Today I am surrounded by more love than I ever thought possible. Derek gave me Emma and Lucas, and for that, I will always feel a sense of gratitude. But Nathan gave them a true father. And he gave me a partner, a real partner. He is not someone who only appears when it is convenient. He is someone who always shows up. Period. This is my happily ever after, not because it is perfect, but because it is real, and it is all mine, ours." Emma tugged on the hem of Grace's shirt. "Mama, I hungry," she declared. Grace laughed, her heart full. "More pancakes are coming right up, sweetie." Nathan began serving the fresh pancakes. Emma proudly showed her drawing to everyone one more time, while Lucas demanded more juice at the top of his lungs. It was normal chaos. It was beautiful chaos. This was the life Grace had fought so hard to have. It was not about achieving financial independence from a millionaire ex-husband, although that certainly helped. It was not about the divorce settlement that granted her freedom, though that was important. It was not even about escaping a relationship filled with narcissistic abuse, though that had saved her life. What she had truly fought for was this. She had fought for mornings that were filled with laughter. She had fought for children who felt deeply and completely loved. She had fought for a partner who always showed up. She had fought for a family that was built on choice, commitment, and a very real kind of love. It was not the kind of love that looks impressive on paper. It was the kind of love that thrives in the messy, wonderful, and imperfect reality of everyday life. Grace had almost died alone on a cold bathroom floor. But she did not die. She survived, and in the act of surviving, she found a piece of herself that she had lost a long time ago. She found herself. Derek may have taken 4 years of her life, but she was determined not to give him one more second of her thoughts. This was a new beginning for her and her children. It was a new beginning for her and Nathan, and it felt perfect. It was not perfect because everything was easy, or because they faced no challenges, or because it resembled a fairy tale. It was perfect because it was real. It was a life they had chosen. It was a life they had earned. Every single day, Grace woke up and chose to live this life. She chose these people. She chose herself. And every single day, Nathan made the very same choice. He chose to show up. He chose to stay. He chose to love. His love was not shown with empty words, but with meaningful actions. It was in the dirty diapers at 3 in the morning. It was in the midnight runs to the pharmacy for medicine. It was in holding Emma tightly during her vaccine shots. It was in reading Lucas stories until he fell asleep. It was in making a huge batch of pancakes on Saturday mornings. It was in the simple act of showing up. Showing up. Always showing up. That was what true love was. It was not about grand gestures or expensive gifts. It was not about promises that were made only to be broken. It was about the daily, conscious choice to be there for one another, to stay, to love. Grace had learned a difficult lesson. You can never shrink yourself small enough to be loved by the wrong person. You cannot apologize your way into becoming important to someone. You can never force another person to choose you. But what you can do is choose yourself. And when you finally do that, the right people will appear in your life. The people who were always meant to find you. The people who truly see you and decide to stay. Grace had finally found her people, and she was never, ever going to let them go. The warm morning sun streamed in through the kitchen windows. Lucas giggled at something funny Nathan said. Emma showed her crayon drawing to Grace for what must have been the 10th time. Grace's hand rested protectively on her pregnant belly. She was carrying their third child, a girl. They had already decided to name her Caroline in honor of the doctor who had not only saved Grace's life, but had also brought Nathan into it. Everything in her world had come full circle. She had gone from facing death to embracing life. She had moved from profound loneliness to being part of a family. She had gone from begging for crumbs of affection to having an abundance of love. She had escaped narcissistic abuse and found a healthy, nurturing love. She had gone from losing herself completely to finding herself once more. This was Grace's story. It was not the story of a victim. It was the story of a survivor. It was the story of a warrior. It was the story of a woman who almost died, but made the powerful choice to live instead. To really, truly live. She was not just existing anymore. She was not just surviving. She was thriving. She was thriving alongside her children, with her loving husband, and in the life she had created. It was a life that she had carefully built from the ashes of her old one. It was a life that was messy and imperfect and absolutely, breathtakingly beautiful. It was a life that was completely hers. And nobody, not Derek, not anyone else, could ever take that away from her again. Grace Holloway had managed to save herself, and in the process of doing that, she had created a family. A true family. The kind of family that is always there for you. The kind of family that never leaves your side. The kind of family that loves you without any conditions. And that was what made all the difference in the world.